have invented, or the Europeans have found these things. And we have gone so far that we've forgotten that these things have actually been mentioned in the Holy Quran itself. The cycle, this is for geography, mentioned in the Holy Quran, the cycle of the rain dropping into the ocean and the sun absorbing that rain out, and then after that it's been spread into the sky. All of this has been mentioned in the Quran well before the 17th or the 16th century, when they found out that this is there in existence. And if you look into the Holy Quran, you will find that Allah has mentioned this in Luqman, Surah Luqman, which is the 31st chapter. Sorry, this is in Surah Rum. Oh, I missed it again. This is in the anyhow, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions here, I found it. Surah Rum, which is the 30th chapter, verse number 48. Allah is the one who sends the winds, فَتُصِيرُ سَحَابًا, and those winds collect clouds, فَيَبْسُطُهُ فِي السَّمَاءِ, then He spreads that throughout the sky as He wants. وَيَجْعَلُهُ كِسَفًا فَتَرَى الْوَدْقَ يَخْرُجْ مِنْ خِلَالِهِ, and then after that, when Allah, He breaks down the clouds and they become heavy, you see that the rain comes from the mid and the depth of those clouds out. فَإِذَا أَصَابَ بِهِمْ, and then it falls onto the ground. If you want to find out more, look into the Holy Quran. Several places that Allah has mentioned this. Look in Surah Dhariyat, which is the 51st chapter of the Holy Quran, and you will find it there. He has mentioned this. In the Holy Quran itself, we find another specific thing. These small points which Allah has mentioned can become the key for these non-Muslims to come into this deen, in this religion. For instance, in Surah Rum itself, Allah has mentioned Adnal Ardi, which is the bottom and the lowest part of the earth. And those who are searching the earth and inventing things, of discovering sciences or geography in the world, have now found that that exact place where Allah has mentioned about Rum, in the place in Rum, is actually Adnal Ard. It is the lowest part of the earth. And this has been mentioned in the Holy Quran way before they started to discover. In the Holy Quran you will find that there is psychology itself, and a lot of it is found in Surah Yusuf, which is about Yusuf alayhi salam and his whole story. And there's so much to learn from this one surah itself that is amazing. When, for instance, the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam came to him, and he recognized them, but they did not recognize him. فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. They recognized him, but he recognized them, but they did not recognize him. And here, it's so beautiful the way Allah talks about Yusuf, when he kept things hidden. And he talked to them in such a way, and he dealt with them in such a way, that he made them do exactly what he wanted. And this is a control over one's mind. And it's one of the one of the subjects with the Prophet ﷺ who's experienced in. And he said, in one of his hadith, he says, كَلِّمِ النَّاسِ قَدْرَ عُقُولِهِمْ. Talk to people according to their mentality. And he did not like people who use sophisticated words. And he said to people, put people, أَنزِلُ النَّاسِ مَنَازِلَهُمْ. Bring down people into their places. He understood this. He understood how to deal with people. He understood that if a child comes to him, how to talk to the child. And if men came, how to talk to men. Like for instance, in his entire life, he never spread out a sheet for anyone except for Halima Sa'adiyya, who came to the Prophet ﷺ when he was approximately 50. And he had not seen her for years. And he spread out his sheet for her because she was like a mother to him. And he did not have his real mother for long. Yet, some of the companions did not get that, very close to him for years, did not get that position. And if you look at the way he dealt with kids, or with children, it's so amazing that he understood. For instance, he would never question a child and say, why did you do this? He would never question a child and say, why didn't you do this? And that's what Anas says, that فَمَا قَالَ لِي لِمَا فَعَلْتَ وَمَا قَالَ لِي لِمَا لَمْ تَفْعَلْ. He never used to say this. Why? Because children won't get, you'll either have the child not giving you an answer or giving you an answer. If the child does not give you an answer, you'll continue to ask him and your anger will build. If the child gives you the answer, then it'll either be correct or it'll either be incorrect. And if the child will fear that if he gives you an incorrect answer and he is caught lying, then you will punish the child. And the child will become sinful in front of Allah. Yet if the child says the truth, he has the fear that you will punish him. So the Prophet ﷺ used to leave them as they were. And he never used to question them, and he never used to use such questions. And if you look in Surah Yusuf, please look inside, you will find that tremendously Allah has brilliantly outlined this in that chapter itself. And throughout the Quran you will find this. The Prophet ﷺ also, he was one that showed us how to be a perfect person in society in terms of keeping the brotherhood in the community. And this is something which is amazing, which the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. For instance, he knew every munafiq in Medina. Every munafiq, he knew them. And it says in the Holy Quran that وَلَتَعْرِفَنَّهُمْ بِسِيمَاهُمْ وَلَتَعْرِفَنَّهُمْ فِي لَحْنِ الْقَوْلِ. That you recognize them. Surely you recognize them in the way they speak to you. And بِسِيمَاهُمْ, another word has been used in the Holy Quran. That فَلَعَرَفْتَهُمْ بِسِيمَاهُمْ, you recognize them by their face, that they're munafiq. But the Prophet ﷺ did not go and tell his companions that someone's a munafiq. He did not, because he knew what would happen to the society. And the words he used, just brilliantly marked, because he said, when his companions asked him, Ya Rasulullah, why don't you tell us who the munafiqeen are so we can get rid of them? He said, I don't want the Arabs in Makkah to say that Muhammad is killing his own companions. And this is some amazing thought, that he looked into the future of things, of the consequences, what would happen if he got rid of these munafiqeen in his time. That the Meccans would now say, oh, he's killing his own companions, because munafiqeen to them were people who said La ilaha illallah. They were hypocrites, but they said La ilaha illallah. So therefore, the Prophet did not tell anyone, and he only told Huzaifa. And he told Huzaifa, never revealed it to anyone. And Huzaifa radiallahu anhu, he never revealed it. And there was approximately more than 300 hypocrites that he gave. He gave a whole list of them. And look at what kind of companions he created. I mean, if he was one of us, we would go to Huzaifa and we would say, oh Huzaifa, tell me so-and-so's a munafiq. Tell me if he's on that list. But the Sahabas never used to do that. Umar radiallahu anhu, he called Huzaifa in his court and he said, oh Huzaifa, I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to answer it. I'm not going to ask you who's the munafiq. I'm going to ask you whether I'm on that list or not. I'm actually asking you now whether I'm a hypocrite or not. Just tell me this. And Huzaifa said, no, you're not a hypocrite. And look at this, the Sahabi who has been given a certification from the Prophet ﷺ, a guarantee. He has said, وَعُمَرْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ, Umar will be in paradise. Yet he asked Huzaifa about his own status, whether he's a munafiq or not. And this is something which is just outstanding, if we think about it. In the Holy Quran, you will find mathematics. You will find certain places where Allah has given digits. And especially if you look at about the third and the half and the eighth, which has been mentioned in Surah Nisa at the beginning, about the inheritance, and the way Allah has put all of that into a few sentences. You know that it's only a few verses, and those verses have been taken out, and books have been written about these verses. Just look at these verses later on if you get the chance, where Allah has mentioned this. In Surah Nisa, which is the 4th chapter, verse number 11 onwards, you will find it, that mathematics has been mentioned here. In the Holy Quran, it has been mentioned to learn language, to gain control over language. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ himself, he had total control over language. And it says in the Holy Quran, وَقُلْ لَهُمْ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ قَوْلًا بَلِيغًا. Make sure that you say such words to them, to the munafiqeen, that will reach their hearts. And this takes eloquence. And the Prophet ﷺ has said, وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْبَيَانِ لَسِحْرًا. Certain speeches are actually magic. They are like magic. These sciences have been mentioned in the Holy Quran, and plenty more. If I go through them, you'll be surprised to see that many have been mentioned. What I will do tomorrow is I want to build upon the period where this empire began to build. And it was not just the Prophet ﷺ, but his companions took this from him, and they started to spread it to the people after them. And amazingly, if you look at the people after the Prophet ﷺ, the things they did, and so like Al-Jazari, for instance, and Al-Biruni, and some of them,